There's something extraordinary about this moment. Not the moment you clicked on this video, but the moment this video found you. Because that's what happened, isn't it? You weren't searching for this specific message. You weren't looking for these exact words. Yet here you are. And there's something about that timing that feels intentional. You see, there are messages that circulate endlessly through the digital noise, content designed to be consumed over and over again. But this isn't one of those messages. This is what I call a threshold transmission, a piece of information that only appears when someone is standing at a very specific point in their spiritual journey, a point where they're ready to receive something they can never unhear, never unsee, never go back from. The strange thing about threshold transmissions is that once you've received them, once you've truly integrated what they're offering, you won't need to hear them again. Not because you'll forget, but because you'll have become them. The message will have done its work, transformed from external information into internal knowing, and you'll move forward carrying its essence within you. If you're watching this, it means your soul has reached a frequency where this particular transmission can be received. It means you're standing at a doorway that most people never even notice exists. And once you walk through it, once you truly understand what I'm about to share with you, this doorway will close behind you, not to keep you trapped, but because you'll no longer need it. You'll be on the other side, living the truth this message came to deliver. When I talk about messages that must find you, I'm describing something that goes far beyond coincidence or algorithmic targeting. I'm talking about what ancient spiritual traditions called divine timing, those moments when the universe conspires to deliver exactly what your soul needs precisely when it's ready to receive it. This isn't about manifestation or the law of attraction in the way most people understand it. This is about something much more mysterious and profound, the intelligence of consciousness itself, orchestrating encounters and revelations that serve your highest evolution. It's the same force that brings you the perfect book at the perfect moment, the conversation that changes everything, the insight that arrives just when you're ready to hear it. But here's what makes threshold transmissions different from ordinary synchronicities. They're not just timely, they're transformational. They don't just give you information, they alter your fundamental frequency. They don't just answer questions, they dissolve the very framework that generated those questions. And once that transformation occurs, you literally cannot receive the same message again because you're no longer the same person who needed it. Think of it like a key that only works once. The door it opens leads to a room you can never leave, not because you're trapped, but because once you've seen what's in that room, you understand that there was never anywhere else you truly wanted to be. The key dissolves because it served its purpose. The door disappears because you no longer need to enter what you've already become. In 2026, as we navigate this unprecedented acceleration of consciousness, these threshold transmissions are becoming more frequent and more intense. The old paradigms are dissolving so rapidly that souls are being called to quantum leaps rather than gradual growth. We're living in a time when spiritual evolution that once took lifetimes is happening in moments. This creates a unique phenomenon, messages that carry such concentrated transformational power that they can only be received once. Your consciousness literally upgrades to a level where the old transmission is no longer relevant. It's like trying to teach someone to walk when they've already learned to fly. The information simply doesn't compute anymore. What I'm about to share with you is one of these transmissions. It will either transform you completely, or it will bounce off your current frequency without effect. There's no middle ground. The first thing you need to understand about threshold transmissions is that they operate through what I call destined encounters. These aren't random meetings or accidental discoveries. They're orchestrated by the intelligence of your own soul, working in collaboration with the greater field of consciousness to deliver precisely what you need for your next evolutionary leap. You've experienced this before, though you might not have recognized it for what it was. That book that fell off the shelf in the bookstore, landing open to exactly the page you needed to read. The stranger who sat next to you on the plane and shared a story that changed your entire perspective. The video that appeared in your feed at 3 a.m. when you couldn't sleep, containing the exact message your heart was crying out for. Let me tell you about Maria, a successful therapist who had been feeling increasingly disconnected from her work. For months, she'd been going through the motions, helping her clients while feeling like something essential was missing from her own life. She couldn't name what it was, just this persistent sense that she was meant for something more, something different. One evening, exhausted from another day of feeling like she was living someone else's life, Maria was scrolling mindlessly through social media when a video appeared with a title that made her stop cold. When Your Soul Outgrows Your Life. She almost scrolled past it. She'd seen countless self-help videos before, but something made her pause. Something in the timing, in the way the words seemed to pulse with relevance to her exact situation. As she watched, Maria felt something she'd never experienced before, the sensation of being seen by the universe itself. Every word in that video seemed crafted specifically for her situation, addressing fears she'd never voiced and dreams she'd barely admitted to herself. But more than that, she felt something shifting inside her as she listened, not just understanding, but actual transformation happening in real time. It was like watching my old self dissolve, she told me later, not in a scary way, but like watching a snake shed its skin. I could feel parts of my identity that no longer served me, just falling away. And underneath was this version of myself I'd always known was there, but had never had the courage to become. Within 6 months, Maria had completely restructured her practice to focus on spiritual counseling and energy healing. She'd found her true calling, but more importantly, she'd found her true self. And here's the remarkable part. When I asked her if she'd ever gone back to watch that video again, she said she'd tried but couldn't find it. Not because it had been deleted, but because when she searched for it, nothing felt like the right video. The transmission had done its work. This is how destined encounters operate. They appear precisely when your soul is ready to receive them, deliver exactly what you need for your transformation, and then become unnecessary because you've integrated their essence into your being. The second aspect of threshold transmissions that makes them so powerful is what I call frequency specificity. Just as a radio can only pick up stations that match its tuning, your consciousness can only receive messages that align with your current vibrational frequency. But unlike a radio, which can tune into the same station repeatedly, consciousness that receives a threshold transmission is permanently altered by it. This happens because these messages don't just give you new information. They activate dormant aspects of your spiritual DNA. They flip switches in your consciousness that once activated cannot be turned off. They awaken capacities within you that fundamentally change how you perceive reality, how you process experience, and how you navigate your life. Think about the moment you first truly understood that you are not your thoughts. Not intellectually, most people understand that concept intellectually. I'm talking about the moment you experientially realized that there's an awareness watching your thoughts, and that awareness is who you really are. Once you've had that realization, you can never again fully believe that you are your thoughts. The frequency of your consciousness has permanently shifted. This is why certain spiritual teachers throughout history have spoken of the pathless path or the gateless gate. They're pointing to the fact that true spiritual awakening doesn't happen through accumulating more knowledge or techniques. It happens through these quantum leaps in consciousness, moments when your entire operating system upgrades instantaneously. I witnessed this phenomenon with David, a software engineer who had been studying meditation and spirituality for over a decade. He'd read hundreds of books, attended countless workshops, practiced various techniques with dedication and sincerity. Yet he felt like he was always on the outside looking in, understanding the concepts but never experiencing the profound shifts others described. Then, one day, while listening to a podcast during his commute, the host said something that seemed almost throwaway. "You're not trying to become enlightened. Enlightenment is trying to become you." In that moment, David felt what he described as reality turning inside out. Suddenly, all his seeking, all his effort to become something other than what he was, revealed itself as the very thing preventing him from recognizing what he already was. "It was like I'd been trying to find my glasses while wearing them," he said. "The moment I realized I was already what I was seeking, everything changed. Not gradually, instantly. I tried to go back to my old meditation practices, my old spiritual books, but they all felt like they were written for someone else, someone who still believed they needed to become something they weren't." David's frequency had shifted so completely that he could no longer resonate with teachings designed for seekers because he was no longer seeking. He'd found what he was looking for by realizing he'd never lost it in the first place. This is the power of frequency-specific transmissions. They don't add to who you are, they reveal who you've always been, but at such a profound level that you can never again forget it. The third and perhaps most profound aspect of threshold transmissions is what happens after you receive them, the complete dissolution of your need for that particular type of guidance. This isn't because you've learned everything there is to know, but because you've undergone such a fundamental shift that the question the transmission answered no longer exists within your consciousness. It's like asking someone who's learned to fly how to take better steps. The question becomes irrelevant not because walking is unimportant, but because the person has transcended the framework within which that question made sense. They haven't just learned a new skill, they've evolved into a different kind of being altogether. This dissolution of need is often accompanied by what spiritual traditions call the great forgetting. Not a loss of memory, but a release of attachment to the very concepts and concerns that once dominated your spiritual seeking. You don't forget what you learned, you integrate it so completely that it becomes as natural and unconscious as breathing. Let me share the story of Elena, a yoga instructor who had been struggling for years with what she called spiritual perfectionism. She was constantly comparing her practice to others, judging her progress, feeling like she wasn't advancing fast enough or deep enough. She consumed every spiritual book, attended every workshop, followed every guru she could find, always seeking the next level, the deeper teaching, the more advanced practice. Then one day, during what she thought would be just another online spiritual talk, the speaker said something that stopped her cold. The spiritual path isn't about becoming more spiritual, it's about becoming more human. In that moment, Elena felt something she'd been carrying for years, this constant pressure to transcend her humanity, simply dissolved.
It was like a weight I didn't even know I was carrying just lifted off my shoulders, she said. All my seeking, all my effort to become some idealized version of a spiritual person suddenly seemed so unnecessary. I realized I'd been trying to escape being human when the whole point was to embrace it more fully. What's remarkable about Elena's transformation is what happened next, or rather, what didn't happen. She stopped seeking. Not because she'd given up on growth or evolution, but because the very framework that generated her seeking had dissolved. She continued practicing yoga, continued studying spiritual teachings, but from a completely different place. Instead of seeking to become something other than what she was celebrating and deepening into what she already was. When I asked Elena if she ever went back to re-watch that talk that had been so transformative, she laughed. I tried to find it once, but honestly, I couldn't even remember what the person looked like or what else they said. It was like the message extracted itself from everything else and became part of me. I don't need to hear it again because I am it now. This is the ultimate sign that a threshold transmission has done its work. You no longer need it because you've become it. I want to tell you about the most profound threshold transmission I ever witnessed because it illustrates perfectly how these messages work and why they can only be received once. Her name was Catherine, and she was what you might call a professional spiritual seeker. For over 20 years, she had dedicated her life to awakening. She'd studied with masters in India, spent months in silent retreat, explored every tradition and technique you could imagine. She was incredibly knowledgeable, deeply sincere, and absolutely committed to her path. Yet something was missing. I feel like I'm always on the verge of some great breakthrough, she told me during our first conversation. Like I'm standing at the edge of an ocean of consciousness, but I can never quite dive in. I understand everything intellectually. I've had beautiful experiences in meditation, but there's this sense that the real thing, the actual awakening, is always just out of reach. Catherine had come to see me not for teaching, but for what she called spiritual direction, help in understanding why, after 2 decades of sincere practice, she still felt like she was on the outside looking in. We talked for hours about her experiences, her practices, her insights. Everything she shared revealed a deep and genuine spiritual maturity. Yet I could feel what she was describing, this sense of being perpetually on the threshold but never crossing over. Then, about an hour into our conversation, something shifted. Catherine was in the middle of describing a recent meditation experience when she suddenly stopped mid-sentence. Her eyes widened, and for a moment she looked completely disoriented. "Oh my God," she whispered, "I've been looking for something that's looking through me." In that moment, I watched 20 years of seeking collapse into a single point of recognition. Catherine's face went through a series of expressions: confusion, recognition, wonder, and then something I can only describe as profound relief. "All this time," she continued, her voice barely audible, "I've been trying to find awareness, to cultivate consciousness, to achieve awakening. But awareness is what's been looking for awareness. Consciousness is what's been trying to cultivate consciousness. The thing I've been seeking is the thing that's been doing the seeking." What happened next was extraordinary. Catherine began to laugh, not the polite laughter of someone who's understood a clever concept, but the deep belly laughter of someone who's just realized they've been looking everywhere for their glasses while wearing them. She laughed until tears streamed down her face, and in that laughter, I could feel decades of spiritual effort and seeking simply dissolving. "It's so obvious," she said when she could finally speak again.
But here's the most remarkable part of Catherine's story. In the weeks that followed, she found herself unable to relate to any of the spiritual teachings that had sustained her for 20 years. Not because they were wrong, but because they were addressed to someone who believed they needed to find something they'd never lost. She tried to return to her meditation practice, but sitting to cultivate awareness when you've realized you are awareness felt absurd. She attempted to read her favorite spiritual books, but they seemed to be written in a language she no longer spoke. "It's like I've graduated from a school I didn't know I was attending," she explained. "All the courses I was taking, all the subjects I was studying, they were perfect for where I was, but now they're irrelevant because I've learned what they were all pointing to." Catherine didn't stop growing spiritually after her realization. If anything, her evolution accelerated. But it was no longer the growth of someone seeking something outside themselves. It was the natural unfolding of someone who had recognized their true nature and was learning to live from that recognition. The threshold transmission that catalyzed Catherine's awakening wasn't the words I spoke or any technique I taught. It was the recognition that arose within her own consciousness when the conditions were exactly right. And once that recognition occurred, she could never again be someone who needed to seek what she already was. So how do you know if you're ready to receive a threshold transmission? How do you position yourself to recognize these life-changing messages when they appear? The answer might surprise you. You don't. You can't. The very attempt to prepare for or seek out these transmissions is what prevents them from occurring. This is the great paradox of spiritual evolution. The more you try to force a breakthrough, the more elusive it becomes. Threshold transmissions arise not from effort, but from a kind of effortless readiness. A state of being so present, so open, so free from agenda that you become transparent to the intelligence that orchestrates these encounters. However, there are certain qualities that seem to create fertile ground for these experiences. The first is what I call sacred dissatisfaction. Not the restless seeking that drives most spiritual pursuits, but a deep recognition that your current way of being, while perhaps comfortable or familiar, is no longer adequate for who you're becoming. This sacred dissatisfaction isn't about rejecting your life or judging your current state. It's about honestly acknowledging that you've outgrown certain patterns, beliefs, or identities, and you're ready for whatever wants to emerge next. It's the willingness to let go of who you've been in service of who you're becoming, even when you can't see clearly what that might look like. The second quality is what mystics have called beginner's mind, the ability to approach each moment with fresh eyes, free from the accumulated weight of your spiritual knowledge and experience. Paradoxically, the more you know about spirituality, the harder it can be to receive these transmissions, because your mind is constantly categorizing, comparing, and analyzing, rather than simply receiving. The third quality is trust in the intelligence of existence itself. This doesn't mean passive waiting or spiritual bypassing. It means actively engaging with your life while simultaneously trusting that if there's something you need to know, some transmission you need to receive, it will find you at exactly the right moment in exactly the right way. Perhaps most importantly, you must be willing to be changed. Threshold transmissions don't just give you new information, they transform who you are at the most fundamental level. Many people say they want transformation, but when it actually arrives, they resist because it requires letting go of familiar aspects of their identity. The invitation, then, is not to seek these transmissions, but to live in a way that makes you available to them. To cultivate presence over seeking, openness over knowledge, trust over control. To become the kind of person who can receive what the universe is always trying to give you.
When you live this way, you'll find that the right messages find you at the right time, deliver exactly what you need, and then dissolve, because you've become what they came to awaken within you. And that, my friends, brings us to the heart of why this particular message had to find you today. You're standing at one of those rare moments in consciousness when a threshold transmission is possible. Not because I'm delivering it, but because you've reached a frequency where you can receive it. The transmission isn't in my words, it's in the recognition that's arising within you as you listen. It's in the knowing that you are not separate from the intelligence that orchestrates these perfect encounters. You are not a victim of circumstance waiting for the universe to deliver what you need. You are the universe, temporarily forgetting its own nature. And these transmissions are simply ways you remind yourself of what you've always known. This video found you because some part of you, the part that exists beyond your thinking,